All right, everyone, welcome back to the Silicon Oasis Spotlight. I am stoked to have here with me today at our Silicon Oasis office,
Mat Sherman. That is my name, and I'm a newish dad and Phoenix native. We're excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Matt. Dude, okay, you're one of the few dads in tech, especially in Arizona, that's, maybe 35 and under. No shots to anyone out there, but it's a tough world enough in tech being a father. Not because there's a stigma, but just because there's not many of them around. But, dude, would love to dive a little bit into your background. What got you to where you are today? And honestly, you've been involved in the AZ tech scene for like 10 years?
Yeah.
So,
just about. Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's excited to learn and hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I got started in entrepreneurship when I was in 8th grade, so I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever, as like a singer-songwriter. So
cool.
I was a musician. I posted videos on YouTube very early in like 2007. I tried to
pioneer, dude. Yeah.
Well, my
2007
first video got like 110,000 views. It's still my most viewed ever video because maybe it was just so early in the platform.
Yeah.
But I tried to make it as a singer-songwriter. I had an album. Was not famous. I got like 20 downloads. Like that wasn't a big deal. But I took it seriously. Through high school, I played gigs, and I had cover art, and I had stickers with my name on it, and all this fun stuff. It is cool, and if you if you go to YouTube now and search my name, like Mat Sherman Music, you'll find like 20 or 30, of my covers on YouTube. So it's like a fun backstory. Unfortunately, sophomore year of college, I was still doing it, and one day I had this realization that I just wasn't that good. My voice specifically, wasn't there. I think I'm very skilled at guitar, and I think I still am fairly skilled at guitar. I think I could do something there if I wanted to, but my voice, not super skilled at.
Yeah.
So I had this realization, so I decided I got to find a new type of entrepreneurship to dive into. I kind of oscillated a bit, circulated different ideas. I think I wanted to do like an event company, social media agency, something like I didn't dive into any of these, but just things I was thinking about.
Yeah. And
then one day I came across, I can't remember how, this organization online called Y Combinator.
Okay. This was what year?
This was 2015. Okay. So in 2014, the prior year, they announced or they released their How to Start a Startup 2014 Stanford series. And I binged it like 3 times and was fascinated with the content coming out of that organization. This was when Sam Altman wasn't really Sam Altman yet. He wasn't even president of Y Combinator, let alone founder and CEO of OpenAI. It really opened up a new world of entrepreneurship to me. So back in 2015, this might be late 2014 now that I think about it, I discovered YC. And very soon after I dive into that content, I'm like, great, what's going on in Phoenix? Like I'm into startups. I have an idea. Yeah. Let's see what's going on. And that's kind of where it started. And the first event that I can recount is Startup Grind, which I don't think it's active anymore, but Startup Grind at the time it was led by Christy Kerner, and it was a fireside chat with Mario Martinez at the old Colplex office. This is again 10 years ago. And that is when at the end Christy was like, all right, if you want to get plugged in, this is Startup Week, and this is that, and this is this. She went through the 10 links. My mind was blown. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do in Phoenix, and that event really kicked it off.
That's really cool. I only started getting involved really like 2 years ago, and I felt it was barren then, man. I can't imagine what it was like 10 years ago.
Well, so it's interesting. My view is constrained from starting in 2014 and beyond. So I can't speak to before 2014, but from 2014 and beyond, things were very lively up until COVID. So Phoenix Startup Week was popping. I'm talking about thousands, not exaggerating, over exaggerating, thousands of people every day coming through Phoenix Startup Week. At the time, it was led by Jonathan Cottrell and a wonderful team. And just this is like I was new to startups. It was fun. I was volunteering stuff. There were events everywhere. Now, was the community events, did it translate to great companies? I'm not sure, but the vibrancy of the community was quite sweet, and it was really fun it had a pulse. It was really fun to be a part of. If you got involved 2.5 years ago, that is that was when Phoenix COVID decimated everything going on, not just in Phoenix but in every scene. And then 2 years ago, we were just starting to rebuild. And we are rebuilding, and I think we're coming out even much stronger than where we were in 2016, 2017. I'm really excited about it. But COVID crushed the momentum, and there's a new set of players that have taken the torch and brought things back to relevancy. And I think it's really exciting time to be in Phoenix right now.
Well, it's really awesome to hear that we had that pulse before. Again, I didn't know anything about tech until 4 years ago, dude. Just extremely transparently. 3.5 years ago, we were being a little more accurate. But even 2 years ago, it was cool to see everyone just kind of rise up. So it's nice to know that it's not just a birth, but more of a rise from the ashes for Phoenix.
Yep.
Quite literal, right? A little cliche thing to say there.
Absolutely.
I almost feel like I'm listening to someone tell me, in tech terms, of times before the television, right? You're like, no, we had this, and it was popping and thousands. Like, hey, that's really, really cool.
There was a one Startup Week event. At least in 2015, Startup Week one day was every day had a different location of the city, and one of the events was in like the old Integrate office before it was Integrate.
Okay.
And Integrate's not even there anymore. But this was like 9 years ago. We took over the whole floor. But like it was like a skyscraper, like the whole floor of a skyscraper. Jeez. Thousands of people. I wish I knew the actual number, but it was epic. If Jonathan Cottrell, if you're listening to this, he was a groomsman at my wedding. I freaking love this guy. You're a legend for doing what you did for the Phoenix startup community. One thing I didn't mention as well, which I should have, is the lifeblood around all of this. I might have mentioned this, but Yes PHX was just getting started at this point. I believe it started in 2014. Also, around this time, Startup AZ was getting started, which was started by Marian Martinez and Brandon Clark and maybe a few others. So there was like a lot of new things that were getting popped up that made it a really vibrant time to be around. Then COVID, and now we're coming back up with the new players, and I'm really excited about it.
So I am 100% sure that people would love to hear about what you're building right now with AZTF.
Yeah, so AZTF, still kind of figuring out what I want it to be.
Nice.
But the end goal is to create more large tech companies in Phoenix. Yep. I think there's a lot of communities that do good work, that are tech focused, not tech focused, but like a lot of things there are community for community's sake. And
yeah,
this is something that I kind of adopted early on in my time in Phoenix, 2015, 2016. But I was really interested in how do you, have a funnel of interested startup people and output companies, and then how do you get those companies to raise seed rounds and Series A's, and then go off and like build massive companies, and then have that company exit, and then have that wealth redistribute back into the city, and then have it go back into the next generation of startups. And I made an observation a year ago that, not that there's no one doing that, but there's not enough orgs that have that ethos, right? So AZTF, although it's early and still figuring out structure, it's a group chat and we do events and stuff, but the goal of it is how can we create more epic tech companies in Arizona? And what that comes from is prior to AZTF, my full-time thing, I was a founder of a company called Seed Scout, and Seed Scout helped dozens, if not hundreds, it was hard to track, of companies raise capital. And specifically, it was outsiders that didn't have access to Silicon Valley, didn't have access to New York, but I identified as high potential. We were able to get them the funding and get them all out to the races. Of course, they didn't all end up successful.
Of course.
But some of them became very successful. So I'm kind of taking a little bit of that model and applying it to AZTF, which is why my specialty is a little bit on the funding side.
Nice.
I don't know if I can help you with hiring. Like, I don't know if I can help you with sales, although obviously I'm leading ad sales at Product Hunt. But my straight line in the T-shaped skill set is funding. So I'm trying to bring that to the ecosystem a bit, and AZTF is kind of my vehicle to do that.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary. Honestly, the way that a lot of the media side for the Silicon Oasis got up and going with more intensity was a couple of companies that I thought were pretty high potential as well that just weren't getting the attention that they deserved. Mm-hmm. Dude, the first one I personally invested in was actually, we met at one of your events. Ooh. It was Leo and Colin at Revolut Robotics.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
So met them there, and that was, I introduced them to the fund I was working at. They weren't very interested at the time. It was too early, which makes sense because we were seed and Series A, and this was like before pre-seed.
I recall, yeah.
So, yeah, I made an investment, alongside my father, and they just won the Mass Robotics Challenge a year ago. They just finished the Mass Challenge, and they just raised a $1.2 million pre-seed. So it's like, hey, keep doing what you're doing, right? And then the other one was Inked Greetings, which I just could not believe anyone in Arizona didn't believe in, really. And
that's a topic in itself.
I know, right? Yeah, I literally quit my job in finance to join their team, but
the amount of great founders that are overlooked by local investors is a shame. Because you can't have that redistribution of wealth if the investors that are local are not investing. So if you have the paradoxes, I don't want to necessarily go off, and we do have local investors that are invested in Paradox, but it's like I wish that local investors would be able to take a little more risks because there's so many founders that do end up raising the capital. It's just not from local investors, and that's bad.
And I agree 100%. I think it's also really sad because the founders feel that. They feel the shunness. I don't even know what the right word is for that. And they feel rejected, right? So when they exit, inevitably, they don't look to Arizona to keep their money because they said, why would I stay in a place that didn't believe in me? So
that's exactly right.
It's so sad, but
you can fix it. You can fix 100%. It by being that it is. I don't think AZTF is a solution. I want to be a part of the solution. But if you allow Arizona to be part of a founding story of a company that does well, then the chances of them coming back and reinvesting are so much higher. Mm-hmm. And one thing I didn't mention that I do is I infrequently, but sometimes when I meet a founder that I really think I can help, I get equity in their company a little bit, and I make introductions to investors. I help them raise capital. I advise them essentially. And this is another way where, even if no local investors invest, and this is a company right now that I'm working with, which obviously I'm not going to name, but they're doing well in the Bay and they're not doing well locally, and it sucks. But at the very least, when that company exits for a lot of money, I will get a distribution and I'll be able to allocate that into Phoenix. So it's a little start, it's a little consolation prize. Although I'd like it to have other people get that prize too.
No, yeah, and I think that's great because as long as people have some sort of believer behind them, especially one that can actually value add, right? I mean, introductions to investors it's no small thing, man. Like, VC is largely mystified, right? I mean, usually to get involved, you have to go to Harvard, Princeton, whatever, right?
No, totally.
The only reason I ever got in was because of NYU. Like, it's not even, it was top 10, not like, but great that you're doing that. That's one of the things that I really like to try to share about as well. We have like 3 interns right now that we're helping teaching them, to be like VC analysts. Nice. And one made a successful VC introduction last week. He was stoked about that. But it's, to your point, it's hard enough in the world of VC. And then coming from an underserved market and then just not knowing how to navigate, I'm sure they appreciate the help that you're giving them, man.
Yeah, I think so. I think they do appreciate it. Yeah.
With that said, you've talked about AZTF, Seed Scout. What's on the horizon for you, man? Is there anything that you're extremely passionate about, forward, future looking here?
Yeah, totally. I'm really bullish on a venture advisory model. So a lot of the work I did at Seed Scout was, and a lot of my writing that I've done, I'm a big writer on my newsletter, forwardthinking.substack.com, is venture capital innovation. And I made a kind of a hypothesis early 2020, early 2021, somewhere in there, that pre-seed investors may not be necessary. It might be adding on too much dilution for a company, and a company may better be off getting someone that is trusted, that is understanding the ecosystem, to get a smaller piece of equity in that company, look at 0.25% to 1%, and make the introductions to the seed investors instead of giving up 20% of their company to a pre-seed investor. It's not math doesn't always line up like that, but there are through Seed Scout we helped dozens of companies raise capital. We only got equity in a few of them, but now, since I've learned from Seed Scout, it's like, how can you meet the founders that are early instead of getting 0.001% with your $1,000 check or $2,000 checks? Like, I only cut $1,000 checks. It's not that much equity, right? Yeah. But if I can advise, earn that equity, get 0.5%, get 1%, maybe even get more, I think there's like an interesting dynamic that comes from that. And at the end of the day, I don't talk about this as much recently because I feel less emotional about it. Yes. But I got rejected from Y Combinator 12 times. I've applied 12 times, 12 rejections, and it's I have a lot to say about that, but through part of the forging of my career of getting rejected so many times for various reasons, I in some ways started C Scout out of spite of Y Combinator, and I learned a lot about their game. And I think that there's an opportunity to actually compete, not by starting an accelerator that invests $500K and actually, but I think if you have a different business model attacking an earlier part of the stack, I think you can get reasonable market share. And I think that is what I'd like to be doing. How do I get there? Because that doesn't generate cash flow, right? That you get equity, but that doesn't, where does the income come from so I can eat food and pay rent for my family and stuff? Yeah. That's the unknown, but I would like to get there, and I have no doubt that I will, because I've been focused on this for 5 years, and what's another 5-10 years to get to that goal?
No, and something else that I've noticed, YC or not, Harvard or not, is if you outwork people extremely passionately, things come up. Things come your way one way or another, right? And
I completely agree.
One of the things that I've noticed as well personally is, working hard is good. Dude, just showing up. Just being here, we do the podcast, mostly ours are in person, but then when people show up, we usually have a good time. It's just, you talk a little more intently, you talk a little more candidly, a little more honestly, but literally just showing up in rooms with people gives you such an advantage today. That's one thing I can't take away right now.
Well, you're getting at another thing that I think is going to be really crucial, and one that I think about a lot, which is access. What's happening here? This is access. You inviting me onto the podcast is you're giving me access to your time, and me saying yes and me showing up and spending my evening with you is me giving you access to my time. And it's the access. Who do you have access to? Who do you give access out to? These are questions I think a lot about, because it's very related to VC, but it's much bigger than VC. This is the world. This is relationships. It's how you socialize. So I could not agree more. Showing up is more important in the next 10 years than it even has been in the last 10 years.
100%. And the way which someone shows up, I think, is also really important as well. I remember before I got to go to grad school in New York, I expected cutthroat and backstabbing and XYZ because that's what you see in movies, right? Honestly, that's probably where I was referencing everything. And then I got there, and then everyone was so nice, and they were giving me their time, and again, I was a first-generation kid, right? First-generation Hispanic. Not that I'd like to throw the race card around, but for me, growing up, the only realistic careers were doctor, lawyer. That's it. If your parents come to this country, it's not because they want you to be a singer or a pianist, which I want to be a pianist, by the way. I grew up playing the piano.
Nice.
But
cool.
That's not a thing, right? You don't look and you say, oh, VC's a thing. So when I go into this world and they showed up for me and they were giving and give first, it was weird, man. It was unexpected to begin with. And I think that's, including you and a lot of other community builders here in the Valley, I think that's what we're trying to kind of integrate into this ecosystem that's rising out of the ashes currently.
Completely agree. I think that the more activity that goes on, the more chances people have to meet someone, which allows them to meet other people on the introductions. Oh, you should meet John. You should meet Susan. Yeah. Oh, have you heard of Silicon Oasis? It's the bigger the activity, the more of this is a horrible analogy. It's a horrible analogy, but the more that goes into building the scene, it creates a black hole, not in a negative way, in a positive way. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just will suck more and more people in a positive way to get involved in the tech scene. And I think that's what we need. I think that's a great thing.
No, yeah. Since we started, Silicon Oasis was originally called Venturon. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
But that was a while ago, and I remember people saying when other communities would pop up, oh, aren't you concerned? Or I was no, that's what I want them to do. This is why, for example, we just had our news video we launched yesterday for the previous week, and we highlighted Phoenix Builds, right? With Ethan Clark, Blake Spurgeon, and Keenan, I forget his name, I'm so sorry. But essentially, even within we have an ambassador program, we encourage them to launch communities. It's just look, to your point, the more there is, the easier it is for someone somehow to have access.
Totally.
Why would you gatekeep that? My opinion, right?
I completely agree. There's what's the meme? Is it Darth Vader or the Sith, where he's more, more? Yeah, that's right. I'm a huge. We need more of everything, and even SF needs more. The answer is always more when it comes to community building, and there will be people that don't agree, and that's fine. But until we are top 5 tech scene in the country, We need more. And once we're top five, we're gonna need more to get to be top three. I don't think we're gonna crack SF. I don't think we're gonna crack New York City. Yeah. But I think at some point in the next 20 years, I think if a lot goes right, we could get top three.
Bro, okay, I was gonna ask you that because I think that too. So I had a conversation with Don Foch on Saturday, right? Sunday, one of those days. He came on here as well. And he said, what you, me, Matt, and others are doing, it's psychotic. And I was like, oh, how do you mean? He's like, think about it. What other person in another state says, I'm shaping SF's future. I'm shaping California's. No individuals speak like that. Yet in Arizona, we have this uncanny belief that we can do it. And I still believe we can, man. If we're getting the right builders, if we're spotlighting the right builders, if we're creating the right communities, I think it could go a really long way.
I think so. I think the constraint is always been and always will be great companies. Like we're not 5 years away from Salt Lake or Atlanta, or we're not 10 years away from LA. We're like one GoDaddy away from Austin, and we're two paradoxes away from Salt Lake City. Like I think for me, it's like a lot of people talk about, oh, we're close, just give it a few years. No, it's not a timing thing. It's like, how can we produce the companies which slingshots us there? And if we get another 10, 20 paradoxes, we're top five. Now that will take work. That doesn't just happen.
Yeah,
but with what you're doing, or what Don's doing, or what everyone's doing, that is how we speed up that process to create 10 more or 20 more GoDaddies or Carvanas, etc.
I'm going to pinpoint on the fact that you said it takes work, because I think Arizona suffered a little bit from not just COVID squashing its in-person events, but we got a lot of the good lagging effects of an awesome tech world. So SF was born out of garages and projects and 20-hour days. And then by the time the tech culture reached Arizona, it was remote work and sauna 11 a.m., Tuesday saunas. And it's like, that if we're going to need those billion-dollar companies, which I agree with you, we need them. And here, they're not born because you took a racquetball session at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday as a founder, and it's like, oh no. So it's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, really, to make it happen.
I completely agree. And I think we have the builders. I'll come back to it. We have the builders. But by the way, I'm not going to, our founders, most of them are not ready for funding. Right, most of them are very early. Most of them think they're farther along than they are. Yeah. So just to be clear, most founders should not be able to raise in Phoenix. But if you look at if there are 95% of founders that shouldn't be able to raise, that means 5% are. The investor's job should be to find the 5%.
Yes.
And a lot of the investors say there's 0% or there's none. And I'm like, well, what about Air Garage? Well, what about Anti-Metal? Well, what about Mixed Panel? Well, what about Fountain? They all left. So it's not true. So,
right. Oh my gosh, wow, so many similarities here. One of the biggest reasons that, again, Silicon Oasis, and it's more of its media aspect, was born, was that company I met at your event. I met it at 8 p.m. on a random Tuesday, right? That's an investor's job, to go hunt at night, anytime, where you might find opportunities.
Yes.
Inked Greetings, same thing. A random Wednesday night at InvestU, they were pitching, and I followed up with it. Just it takes so much work, and that's what I think people just aren't getting here. It's just effort from both ends to find the gems.
That's really the punchline. It requires effort from both ends. It's not, and the effort is different. I think if you're an investor, the effort. I think if you just show up, honestly, I think that's enough. If people know who you are, maybe they don't know who you are, but you introduce yourself as an investor, I almost think that's enough. Just go to events. That's enough. But if you're a founder, it's not just showing up; it's educating yourself on do you know how to raise money? Do you know what you're supposed to say? Do you know how much you want to raise? You can't just say I want to build $1 billion company. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, give me $1 million. You got to be educated, and most aren't, and most don't know what they don't know. But there are a small percent of founders that do, because I know them, and I'm an equity holder in some of them, and I see the investors they're talking to outside of Phoenix, and I wish they were investors in Phoenix that were talking to them. Yeah. But I'm not going to stop the raise just because local investors don't want to take the risk. The show goes on, unfortunately. Fortunately for the founder, unfortunately for the ecosystem.
Correct. When people say, and they've come as well, right, asking and saying, hey, what should I do? I'm like, raise out of state. It's sad to say,
Totally.
I'll go as far as to say, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Yeah.
go for it.
I'll go as far as to say, as if you're serious about building and you're not finding your luck here, leave. Like, and I'm not afraid to say, hey, Arizona, get to a point to where they don't need to leave. But currently, if they're serious and they're working 18-hour days already, I'm like, go, have that proximity of good investors, good founders that are just gonna pump you up and keep you energized and going.
I could not agree anymore. It's completely right. Like, if you are an early stage founder, even regardless of age, like if you just got started in a company and you want to go big, you want to surround yourself with as many like-minded people as possible. And I found, and like it's a major challenge. I don't know that many truly like-minded people in Phoenix that I like that are my peers. Like I have my community, I have my friend group, I have people that aren't in tech. But like I go to SF and I'm home. Like I'm in Phoenix, and in some ways I feel like I'm a stranger. Yeah. And in SF, like I'm home. And there's friction there, obviously. But like if you're a techie and you aren't really finding your people here, like maybe you're just a weirdo like me, and like just go to SF. If you're in a position to, Mm-hmm. So I agree with you.
No, yeah. I mean, for me, it's New York. Funnily enough.
New York is a very, very great tech scene as well.
Yeah, the fund I worked for was based out of like SF in New York. But I'll say this, right? I went to grad school in New York, and it was funny because even the videos, any posts that we like put on our Silicon Oasis page, the engagement is always like 60% Phoenix, 40% New York, and then it kind of trickles from there. So, I mean, find your people, grow with them, and then if you want to come back, sure. But that's what I tell people. Look, go dip your feet. Yeah, get your feet wet somewhere else.
100%. I completely agree.
And it's funny because people ask, oh, then why did I come back here? And again, my probably not very popular but honest answer is, well, look, I wouldn't be involved in tech at all if it wasn't for New York. And number two, I kind of tested out New York, right? I was trained there. I met the founder. I saw what an awesome, thriving tech ecosystem looked like. And that's why, building communities here kind of works. If you've noticed, everyone that has some sort of degree of success in building communities here, they were kind of trained somewhere else, not in Arizona. I don't know if you've seen that, but...
It's true. They've a broader context on what is necessary for a successful scene and what's successful to help make successful founders. So I think that's right. And they also have seen a different pace. Like you go to SF, you go to New York. Like it's a different pace. People... They will lap people at Phoenix 5 times before someone in Phoenix has a lap. Unless you realize that is the pace, and then you run the 5 laps, just like Mm-hmm. When I meet founders in Phoenix that are just alphas, they act like they operate like they're an SF culture, but because that's just their DNA. But there's a lot of founders that just move very slow because the average founder in Phoenix moves slow. Yeah. But the average founder in SF moves very fast. So if you're average, like. If you're average in Phoenix, if you move to SF, you'll see a different pace. You'll naturally change how you work simply by being surrounded by different kinds of people. And do I want everyone to move to SF? No, I live in Phoenix, right? Yeah. And I would love for Phoenix to be a wonderful place for startups to build their companies and scale. But right now, they're not. It's just not. Mm-hmm. And because this is where I am, it's where my family is, and it's where I am right now, I'm trying to be that change.
Nice.
Be one of the changes, off. Be one of the changes, because like I'm not a founder right now, right? I'm not sacrificing a startup to like build the scene. I have a job, but I'd love to see Phoenix in like within 5-10 years be a place where I can tell a founder, the most talented founder I've met that year, look them dead in the eye and say, you got to stay here. Your chances of success are better here than anywhere else. I can't do that right now.
Right, and agreed. Again, I probably told several founders, right? Hey, if you're serious, leave. Yeah. And it's funny though because. Something that you explained a lot better that I think I was trying to say was the pace of other places. You adapt, and then when you come back, right, as I have, to Arizona, you gotta keep it up. I don't know. I'm sure you feel it, but you almost feel like a duty to take the knowledge that you've learned, and then you just gotta infect everyone with it and say, look, we're gonna lead by example. I mean, I tell people, hey, Inked Greetings is my 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Silicon Oasis is my 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. That includes weekends. And it's not to show off. That's to say this is the pace that's needed to win. Like, even if I fail, you saw the pace, right? Like, Please notice the pace, the sacrifice, the intense hours that you need. Efficient hours as well, not just, you don't just work for work's sake. You work and you move the needle every 20 minutes with something important.
I completely agree. and you know that pace because probably you've like we're talking about, you've seen that pace elsewhere and you're just bringing it back to Arizona.
I got a really funny story, right? I remember one time I attended this event in New York. It was an investor founder media dinner. You know, the Times was there, Goldman Sachs, whatever, right? Very, very privileged to go, honestly. It was some rooftop thing with my general partners in the fund. And I remember the 3 days leading up to that, I was working like 14-hour days because I wanted Friday off in my world, right, in New York. And I was like, if I work 14-hour days now, you know, I'll have all of Friday to explore New York, and then my flight's at 10 p.m. And whatever, dinner happens, it's amazing. And then I get up at 8 a.m., get dressed, and I'm heading out the door. And I'm like, yeah, it's time for a great day in the city. And my general partner calls me. He's like, hey, we got a fast-moving deal. I need a diligence report by tonight. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, that's so. I literally, on the same street as NYU, I put up shop in a McDonald's there, got my laptop out, worked, I kid you not, 12 hours, and then had to get my flight. I hit send on my report on my email, on my plane seat. And it was like 10:15 p.m. and then took off and then got to Arizona at 1 a.m. Yeah, no. So that's what I'm trying. Again, not showing off. It's just that's the pace.
Yeah.
That's what you need. And it's not, it's Friday, it's the weekend, sorry.
And look, this is the thing though, like if you're, in my opinion, like if you haven't raised money, right? If you're, and this isn't, okay, so a pace is, if you're trying to build something great and you're trying to compete and be the best in your space, you always need a very fast pace. Where I would not agree with what I just said is if you haven't raised money, so you're not like in this arena and you're bootstrapped and you're just doing it your own way, then you kind of do what you want. If you don't want to build a massive thing very quickly, that's cool. But the thing that the mismatch is some folks want to raise money or even have raised a little money but don't agree that that's the pace they need to be on, and that is a mismatch. You take someone else's money, you take outside money, and you don't do everything that you possibly can in your control to turn that into something. You're not really you really shouldn't have been backed. You know, it may fail. Look, I've lost investors' money. I am extremely disappointed in myself for doing that. It is like of course I didn't plan on losing investors' money, but sometimes investors invest and the company doesn't work out. But like you can't look back and be, oh well, maybe I just should have worked an extra 10 hours in the week and maybe I would have worked out. You know, I leave it all on the field. I try, you know what I mean? So I agree. Well, yeah, I fully agree.
I'm not trying to be cliche when I say I love that, but as someone, again, who grew up first generation, my parents came to this country with nothing. Every dollar counted. Every dollar counted. So it seems so ridiculous to me when someone takes money, whether it be NSF, NYC, or here, and they're just like, I need a break. Right. Look, I get that. I'm not saying kill yourself. I'm not saying go into depression.
Right.
But you should never take someone else's money if you think working a lot of hours is going to put you into depression.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
most people really shouldn't take other people's money, you know?
Agreed, yeah.
But the world, the startup world, it's so sexy to start a startup. And, go through YC, go through an accelerator, raise some money. I spent a lot of time telling founders that they may be better off not raising, and of course, most of them are just like, you don't know what you're talking about, like, that was me. Like that was me when I did Publoft. I raised $100,000 from Jason Calacanis, and within a year the company was toast. So it's like, I know what it's like to be a founder that hears advice from someone that says you should do this, and you're like, well, screw that, I'm going to do the opposite. But now that I'm a little older and a little more experienced, I can empathize with that founder, but still know where that founder is going to end up by how they react to that advice, if that all makes sense.
No, yeah, 100%. And that's another thing that I think is very popular in startup culture, which is like, hey, screw everyone, do you. But there's sometimes people who do know a little better. There's people who've been through the fire before, and they're just trying to help.
It's tough. Like I agree. My former self may not agree though. My younger version of myself. Yeah. But my 31-year-old self was like, of course, obviously that's true. It's just the part of the. It's just tricky. It's part of the game because my younger self was able to take a little more risk. He was maybe a little more bold. It's like you're different. If I start a startup today, I'm gonna have different superpowers and kryptonite than if I started 10 years ago. Than if I start in 10 years, right? So it's just like an interesting dynamic.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying though. I've loved this conversation so far, man. It's been a lot. it deviates a little from like our typical format, but it's good because I think it's something that Arizona needs to hear in general. Not that they've not heard it before, but I think when two people sit down who have, bust their chops in other ecosystems and come here and say, hey, I think we need a little more of this, or hey, Arizona founders, you just need to work a little more. It's not because we're crazy. It's, seen a couple things now and then.
Yep.
just a couple, Again, we're both, 31, 30?
Yep.
We haven't seen everything, but I mean, we've seen a little more than someone who just has only spent their time here.
That's right.
I know we're kind of wrapping up on time here, dude. This time's kind of flown by, but is there any last topic you'd like to touch on before we did kind of close this out?
Do I complete the trifecta? I'll complete the trifecta. I have a it's not necessarily a topic, but it's more like a message.
Please.
If you are an investor, if you are an investor in Phoenix, there is nothing wrong with waiting until a company's at 500K ARR. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with investing when someone's at $1 million ARR. The key is to manage expectations, and if you're waiting till seed or late seed even, then communicate that. One firm that I respect a lot for doing this is AZVC. Mm-hmm. AZVC, they kind of own the fact that they do Series A. They may do an occasional seed, but it's mostly Series A, and that's how I perceive them. I think a lot of other firms are kind of confused. They're like, they say they do pre-seed, but they say it's not consistent. And it's very confusing for founders. It's confusing for me as a founder helper that makes a bunch of introductions to locals and non-locals. So if you want to say you're a pre-seed investor, take pre-seed risk. If you don't want to say if you don't want to take pre-seed risk, just don't say you're an earliest investor in a company, and that's all you have to do, because it's very confusing for founders right now.
I would tend to agree, and I hate saying out loud that introductions to probably local VCs I've not made any on purpose, and it depends too, because I know a couple of the folks at, for example, Phoenix Ventures, AZVC, and I like them. So if just because I like the person more than the fund, I'll be like, hey, meet him, talk, let's see what happens, right? But as a strategic play, I can't say I've said, oh yeah, XYZ founder, you need to meet local fund. I've made introductions for SF and NYC based funds, and I just kind of agreeing there and explaining why I did.
Well, so I actually, most of the time when I work with a founder, I will always send them to the same 4 to 5 investors in Phoenix. I'm not going to name them because I'm sure there's 4 or 5 investors that I like, and I will send deals to that I want to see do well in Phoenix and invest and whatnot. And I will always send it to them because I always want them to see the deals. But just alongside the 4 or 5, intros to them, I'll add on 10 to 20 in the Bay. And if a local investor wants to do the deal, great. I do have portfolio companies where a local investor has cut a 6-figure check.
Cool.
Which is great. I can't disclose details, obviously, but that's a thing.
No,
that's exciting.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. I think it's happened once. Which is great. I've had a lot more of that happen in the Bay, so I always give locals a chance, but I am excited for when the framing isn't giving them a chance, it's giving them the opportunity that they seize. But everyone has a different risk tolerance, and I get that. But just again, if you don't want to take pre-seed risk, don't say you're a pre-seed investor. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It's like
love it, dude.
And if you want to take pre-seed risk, hit me up. I can help. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what we didn't go so much into my specific background with Seed Scout, but if you want to learn how to evaluate pre-seed companies that don't have the revenue arc up to the rate, it's possible. You just have to underwrite on different things. So if you're an investor and you want to figure out pre-seed, hit me up because I'm very good at it. And I insert myself at pre-seed, so hit me up if you want to learn. If you're open to it.
No, I mean, that's open invitation, right? Please do.
Matt at MattSherman.com. Hit me up.
There we go. Matt, if there's a one-liner you'd love to leave the world with, what would that be?
Who you know matters more than what you know.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a sad realization one, but it's a great one nonetheless because its importance is just so vast. The last thing I'll say is I agree with that so much that my kids need to go to a top 10 school or bust, right? I know there's a lot of talk of, You don't need to go to college. No, if you see all the people who say that and where their kids went to school, it's ridiculous. Like, they're lying. They're hypocrites.
So that's just that backs up even more why, like, who you know matters more than what you know.
Exactly.
Like, if you know the right people, you know that they're like what you're saying. You know that that's not true when they say that. Yeah, I completely agree. So
awesome,
funny.
Matt. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It was great being on.
All right, everyone. Well, that was this edition of the Silicon Oasis Spotlight, and we'll catch you next time.